everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe Live Show. This is the second day of this amazing week about inclusive design, UI, UX, diversity, inclusion. We covered all the topics yesterday, and also we have this chance of having four amazing designers working on an experience live for 3 days. So this is the second day, and this is the show with Megan. Hi, Megan.
Hey.
How are you today?
Good.
Good. So we are. You see, okay, so Kevin, actually, I think it was the schedule of yesterday, but you can watch the replay, actually, it's cool. I will invite you to watch the interview with George, then Megan, and we will welcome Amelia and Sharon right after. And you see Megan is hosted by Sarah Stewart. So I will be Sarah Stewart for 2 minutes. We're just having some microphone issues, so we'll just add microphone that works on Sarah, and she will join you.
Yep, perfect.
Okay. So maybe what we can do, Megan, is if you want to recap quickly what you did yesterday.
Yep. So yesterday we talked a bit about what Kountable does, and we work with entrepreneurs in emerging markets. So currently we have offices in Rwanda and in Kenya, and we're working to help finance entrepreneurs' projects to provide goods to various end customers, as we call them. So yesterday we got started and talked about our process from sketching to wireframing, and we got started on some designs. So today we will be finishing those designs. We're going to work on some prototyping and present a couple of the new features and play with how the new responsive feature where we can drag.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's brand new. It was introduced last week. So
yep, it's pretty awesome.
We'll be one of the first users.
Yeah. One
of the first using it on Adobe Live, actually. That would be cool.
Awesome.
Marissa, she played a little bit with it this morning, and I saw Jeannie, she just also made a short demonstration, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's a huge time saver. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's nice.
Yep.
So this is what you created yesterday.
Yeah,
yep.
So we're doing a store experience. So we worked on some screens there's several categorization of goods.
Oh, okay, Sarah.
We've got a Sarah.
How we fix the microphone? Yes. Everything works? Okay. Hi everyone. What's going on?
Plug her in.
To plug us, all right. Okay. I can do that.
Okay. I'll turn on your mic.
Hey Sarah, how are you today?
Good, how are you? Thank you for introducing me.
It's normal.
All right, I've switched. Hi everyone. Good to see you again, Megan.
Me as well.
All right, so my microphone issues are over. We did a recap and you're jumping into what we did yesterday?
Yeah, so just showing,
Great.
I did cheat a little bit, and I did some things last night just to make sure that everything was clean and we could get running today. So we've created a store experience. We have our primary categorization of medical supplies in the case study that we talked about yesterday, which was providing incubators to hospitals in Rwanda. And then we have our secondary categorizations, tertiary, and if you were to open any of those up, you see these, again, another layer of categories. When you would click into one of those, you get this listing of products with the ability to filter those products. We have a listing page that talks about that actual product, the details of that product, delivery, reviews, additional items. Add that to your cart, and then the checkout experience, which we will be finishing this afternoon.
Perfect.
So,
yeah, Megan covered a lot yesterday. She was working while talking and completing a bunch of screens very efficiently. I hope to see a lot of people from yesterday. Hopefully you're tuning in for number 2 of 3. Hi everyone, I see Tiana, Osama, Gladstone, Voodoo Val, good to see you again. Lindsay, presto changeo, that is exactly what happened. Monier, good to see you again. Hi Adobe Live. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far.
it is a good day. It was rainy all day yesterday and nice today.
Yeah, it was super rainy yesterday. It's a little bit humid in New York City today. They're saying the weather's tropical levels of humidity, which is a lot for my hair, but it seems to be managing it okay.
So we have on our first, when a user checks out, again, we talked yesterday about it's a bit different because we're invoicing and we're not actually checking out. So The first thing we'll have to do is select where these goods will be shipped to. So in this case, we selected it would be shipped to the entrepreneur himself. And then based off of that, our system could check and we would know that if these goods are coming from Europe, that we probably aren't going to drive these goods down. But the options would be freight, and we would know that that it would cost a certain amount. I'm just going to make up a number.
Yeah, we talked about how it might need to be shipped from a pretty distant location, and so freight might be, or shipping costs might be a factor that a user would really want to know.
And then we'd also need to know for sure when those goods would arrive. I would assume if they're freight, they would take longer. If they're air, they would go faster.
Voodoo Val mentions her hair would not survive in that weather. And Jan says, I hear you loud and clear. Ha ha ha. We got some puns going.
Jokes.
And I wanted to quickly remind everyone that we're inviting you to share your XD Daily Creative Challenge today, and we're going to be reviewing some of those later. And so if you're participating, please submit your designs. You want to add it to, you can submit it if you look in the challenge tab to a URL that we've provided. You can either share your online prototype or your Behance project. And so we'll be looking at those later today, which will be great. And we'll give you some feedback. I think Megan's a good person to get feedback from because she will really help provide you with UX feedback. And I can provide some UX UI feedback too. So
What was the project?
let's take a look at what today's challenge is. I'm going to pull that up on my computer and let us know if you've been participating. I want to know who's been participating in the challenge. I've been thinking about doing it. I just haven't done it yet, but I still have time, and so do you. Let's see. XD.
We're reviewing that during the show. So,
We are. We'll be reviewing it later in the show. And Voodoo Val sent out a link in chat to the Slack channel where we have a community working together on Slack to support each other while we're working on these challenges.
Brilliant.
Yeah, another way to get involved, which is amazing. Hi Eric, good to see you again today. I'm actually taking a peek at some of the people that have submitted for the challenge, and these designs look fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is a design by Simon Fell. I'll start at the top, but we have a couple different screens here. They have a nice cover photo. So yeah, we'll be looking at some of these later today. And we're happy to have you participate.
I assume there's like did you have winners of these, or is it just a review?
You're gonna pick you'll let people know what you think of their designs, but then the winners are actually the people that end up participating. So all you need to do is participate to have a chance to win. And I wanna learn more about this, so I'm gonna look up some more of the rules to be up to date on how this is going, because this is an XD challenge. The XD team put this together recently. Talon sometimes comes into chat. He's a lead designer on the XD team. So he's a good person to talk to about XD and all the new features that are coming out.
Nice. Yeah, I actually watched this morning, if you guys can just search for new features, they have really great and thorough articles that talk about some of the new features. So even I was reading up on them yesterday. Some pretty cool things that have just come out.
Mm-hmm. And how's everyone doing today? I know we have people from all over the world tuning in. Where are you tuning in from? We're in New York City this week, which isn't normal, but we're enjoying the humid weather.
It's warm.
Megan's from San Diego, and I am from Asheville, North Carolina. And again, as I've been looking at the challenge information, Megan's been putting together a bunch of screens. And so we've got the invoice page almost squared away.
Yeah, so a user would select who it's getting shipped to, what method it would get shipped based on price and based on the date of that delivery. And looking at this, I probably should make these both more prominent. It's probably the most important part of the page. So if I scroll up to my assets panel, I already have some of my type styling set based on our design system.
So again, she's
Perfect.
using that assets panel really efficiently. Probably the best I've seen in terms of organization in XD, having it all set up properly for you to just drag and drop different components. I need to take advantage of the asset panel more efficiently when I'm working on designs in XD.
That's really great. Just be able to drag and drop or click and change things around. So, well, now we want to have a user be able to review their cart. So you make all of these changes, you make all of these selections, and you just want to make sure that you are shipping and delivering and paying for things exactly how you intended before. It allows more confidence for our users, and as we talked about yesterday, we want to make sure that we're continuing to instill trust in them. So we would want to have, probably take this same cart subtotal here. And we have actually 20 items. Who knows what the math is? Somebody told us yesterday.
60,000, I'll remember that for the rest of time.
But we have shipping to include too, so we're just gonna make it more.
Perfect.
And then we would want submit invoice. So let's change this here from instead of submit invoice to create invoice. So when we're on this page, we've added it to our invoice. We could go to our cart, we're in our cart, we create an invoice, and then later we're actually submitting that invoice. So making sure that we're using the appropriate vernacular so people know exactly what action is going to happen as they click from screen to screen.
Yep. We have a question from Jeff if you prefer the list view of assets, which it seems like you do.
You know, sometimes for the symbols, I like to be able to see them. It's harder to see them in the list view, but if I've named them appropriately, then it's all right. But for type, I like to be able to see the titles of them. So I've titled them similar to how probably material titles theirs, right? You have your display or your header 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when I do it in this view, I can't see that title. So it's harder. I have the points memorized as much as I have the titles that I've given them memorized.
Nice.
So I kind of toggle back and forth depending on what I need.
Yeah, I think when you have clear labels, it's probably easier to use this view, but if you don't necessarily label it as well as you maybe did, it might be easier to see the actual typeface in that preview mode when it is a little bit bigger in size. Talon said he was interested in the answer, and probably because he's wondering how many XD users end up using it that way.
Yeah.
Doing some live user testing.
Ask away.
No problem, Jeff.
So once a user has submitted their invoice, we want to both give them affirmation like we did earlier, but we also want to be able to associate an invoice to a specific project. So part of the submission of a project is making sure that part of the submission of a project is listing out how much your goods are going to cost. So if we're adding this in app, then we're able to directly add that to a project to submit. This tablecloth's making me
It's not working as
struggle
great
to
mouse
drag.
pad. Are you a designer that needs a mouse to be able to work? Because I know that there are some designers that exclusively use a trackpad.
You know, I used to use a Wacom tablet because that's what we had in college. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Appreciate it. You ask and it is.
Our lovely helper Paco is helping us out with equipment and mic issues and any other problems we have.
So I already have the illustrations. Again, we worked with an illustrator, Arlie, to help us create some of these. So they've been really fun to add a little bit of color into our application. If you've ever been to Rwanda or Kenya, it's such a colorful and bright country, and so it's fun to add a little pizzazz to what can otherwise be a sometimes straightforward application.
Yeah, these illustrations are super cute. Voodoo Doll says she doesn't know that people used trackpad for this kind of work until she started watching Adobe Live.
Yeah.
And
do you
yes,
use?
Paco is a superhero.
Do you use a trackpad?
I actually use, so did you know that Wacom is pronounced Wacom?
I did not. I said Wacom, huh?
Yeah, I used to say Wacom too until a representative from Wacom came, and the first thing they taught us was, this is how you actually pronounce the name of our product. And I thought it was really funny because I like saying Wacom better. Wacom feels like I'm playing whack-a-mole.
Totally.
Yeah, but apparently that's the right way to say it. It's always funny when you learn that a word that you've used for a long time is actually pronounced very differently than what you've been using or what most people use it or pronounce it. And Osama said they also pronounced it incorrectly. Yeah, I think most of people in the world do until they learn that that's the other way, the right way of saying it.
Until they watch you on live stream.
Yeah, or you learn these facts from me on live stream. Jeff says trackpads are emergency only for him.
Do you use trackpad ever?
I use trackpad when I'm on an airplane because there's not enough room for the mouse.
Yeah.
But I actually brought my mouse with me on this trip to use it in the hotel room, so I guess I like my mouse.
Yep.
Yep, Adobe Live brings up Chat and Win. So again, we're doing Chat and Win today. So just by asking us questions or letting us know where you're tuning in from, you have an opportunity to win in 13 minutes. And this week we're being sponsored by moo.com, and so you're gonna enter into a chance to win a lovely hardcover notebook. I use them for all my business cards because they make really quality materials. We had an example of a good customer service story from Voodoo Valley yesterday where they reprinted everything for her because they weren't up to par of what she wanted. So it's gonna be a good product to have, and you have to let us know what you'd use it for. Would you use it for doodles, sketches, wireframes? We wanna know. Nice. Tima says the Chat and Win wants me to win though. Yeah? We'll see who the winner is. Gilead says moo is cool, I agree.
Turns out it's actually pronounced.
Mooe. Yeah. Yeah, Voodoo says every interaction has been awesome. I agree. Beth says Wacom? Ha ha ha. Wacom should sound more regal. I agree. And we've got a question from Alex about whether or not you're using grids in your design right now in XD.
Not currently. I probably would. Right now I'm just trying to like sprint through this a bit. So if I were being, often I'll do a design, I'll get everything on there, and then as I know that everything's placed exactly where I want it to be, I'll comb back through and do like pixel perfect, making sure that everything's as it should be. And typically we'll use grids more frequently there.
Yeah, Megan mentioned yesterday she likes to think of design as painting on layers, like a painting, which I really like as far as an analogy goes, because you want to block out content, add details, and then polish it up. That's usually the way that most designers work. Are there any designers that skip wireframes and jump right into designs? I don't advocate for it, but I know that there are some that do. And I know some people like to try to come up with variations of screens for a creative UI process, but it's kind of skipping the UX steps. Hi, Jonathan, tuning in from Oklahoma. He says, get me out of here.
Out of Oklahoma?
Where do you want to move to, Jonathan? What's your dream city? And Gabrielle mentions, while we're in New York, we should go to Chinatown and get soup dumplings. And go to Chinatown Ice Cream Factory. I've never been there. That sounds rad.
Sounds delicious.
If I could have ice cream, I would totally go there, but I'm lactose intolerant. so I can't. Ice cream makes me sick.
Did you love ice cream before you found out
Oh,
you were
of
lactose intolerant?
course. Who doesn't love ice cream? I take dairy pills sometimes to have dairy
There you
options
go.
available, but ice cream is a bit of a dangerous, risky game.
Yeah.
So I
Not
try
worth
not
it.
to. Sorbet is delicious though.
All right, so I am adding both the ability to select a project, but I think I also want to give users one thing that I've learned actually before I say that. If you ungroup a symbol, it doesn't, or if you detach it from a symbol, you're gonna get it not in a folder. Is that true? Yeah, not in a folder. So you'll have to go in if you want those to be grouped. So for instance, I detached the button so that I could narrow it. When it is no longer a symbol, it's going to come out as detached layers. So you're going to want to go ahead and potentially group those together if that's how you structure things. And potentially rename those if you have good file structure.
You always want to have good file structure. You want to have a clean file.
Unless you're trying to design in 2 hours.
That's true. Then you have to go back later and fix it. Or open it later and be like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Jonathan says New York sounds nice. Tima says New York is expensive. I agree. I left New York and San Francisco because they were very expensive places for me to live.
How long did you live in New York?
I lived in New York for 5 years and I lived in San Francisco for 1.
Did you have a preference between the two?
I would probably say I liked San Francisco more, but I'm originally from the West Coast. I'm from Vancouver, Canada.
Nice.
So, yeah. New York, I like visiting, but I didn't like living here as much.
Yeah,
There's not enough nature.
that's fair.
For me, anyways. Do you like San Diego a lot, Megan?
San Diego, if my family were closer, I would be there for life. But it's weather's perfect. It's really chill, easy going.
Nice.
So,
Beth?
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Beth mentions that she skips wireframes if the pattern is repeated from another one of our products and we are bringing in that component. That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, I think as we've been doing a design system, there's some places where I would agree, we can cut out some of the steps for ease. But I think if we can sketch or do detailed sketches and then go straight into the design, we're able to do that a bit easier.
Nice.
So we're creating a quick download button. So if a user wants to also save this to their personal phone and just at least have a copy of it, not necessarily attached to a project, or they need to send it to someone, they'll have the ability to do that.
So you're just making an icon in XD.
Yeah, it's so much like Illustrator, and in a lot of ways even easier for at least something simple like this. It would take me, I would just open a new application to do something I could do here.
Yep. Making icons in XD is easy. If you want to make more complicated ones, Illustrator's your friend, but...
And you have, the library where you can kind of just easily drag and drop things from different products, right?
Yeah. So you've made a symbol that you're going to put into your library now.
Yeah, so we could potentially save this. I didn't realize I actually already had it, but that's all right. We'll show you how we save it. It shows up as just whatever I believe the latest number of symbol is, and you could rename this. So for me, IC is what I use for icon, and then download. And I've heard from my Android developers, I don't know if this is true across the board, but that a dash rather than like an underscore is easier for him to just translate straight into code. So paying attention to the way that I name things as well. So this may not be an intuitive icon for all of our users, so I'm also going to add in some text for download.
Nice.
We're going to go ahead. Anything, the way that we've structured our design system is that anything that is blue is actionable. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this icon blue as well.
Hi, Bach. Jeff asked me if I participate in the Asheville art scene. There is a big art scene where I live, but it's a lot of non-tech art. And so there's ceramics, painting, that kind of thing. I'm actually hosting a Dribble meetup in Asheville to see what other creatives exist in the area, which should be fun. But yeah, I am trying to get more involved in that scene. And Gabrielle asks if Adobe will include the repeat grid functionality for Illustrator at some point. I think that's a great question. I think the repeat grid functionality is everyone's favorite part of XD. It's one of the most magical Adobe Kedavra features. Yeah, I think there are talks of other products possibly incorporating that functionality, but Talon would be a good person to ask too. Talon, are you influencing the other teams to copy some of your functionality? And Elizabeth asks, what are your next steps after completing your wireframes?
So I'm going to keep adding on layers of visual in an ideal scenario. Right now I'm just going to add in photos so we at least have some context of what those visuals would be. I pulled some already from Adobe stock, and we can, one nice thing is even if I just want to show in a prototype, I don't necessarily want to find finished photos or the exact photos that I would want to place in here. I could just go and click on previews and drag and drop those into where they might live. So in this instance, we're just going to have some generic photos. Obviously, these aren't properly paired, but we're just going to have some generic photos that at least speak to what the topic is or the category is. And we can drag and drop those things there. And then I would love to get to, we can add more fidelity to these designs as we would need to, but I'd love to make sure that we make the time to do some animation and look at the responsive feature as well. So I may switch gears and do that for a little bit before we add a lot more fidelity anyways to these designs.
So as you can see, when Megan drags images into the repeat grid, it automatically populates them and offsets them when you add extra images into it. It's pretty cool that it does that.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
And we only have 2 minutes left before the chat and win, so please let us know where you're dialing in from, what's going on. Do you have any burning questions for Megan at this point? Or what would you like us to do today? What would you like to see in XD? Let us know. And you have the chance to win. Beth mentions repeat grid would be good for InDesign. Her magazine team would really benefit from it. So Talon seems to be talking to other teams and collaborating with them. Hopefully that's something that they can put in there.
So one thing that when I'm working on a larger screen, I actually tend to keep this preview mode up and just on the side. So that I can always be watching, even as I'm designing, I can see the way that things are moving and shifting and how do they fit within this particular screen port size. So I'm going to go through and make sure that everything is structured and set up how we would want it to. For instance, it looks like I didn't click to select this particular component as fixed. So now as I'm scrolling, that would be fixed here. We did have, so this is our initial screen, and as you would scroll, that you would see this fill in the top header space and add in these icons here, so that as you're scrolling, you have more scroll space than what we have here initially. So we're just going to emulate that and pretend like it does that with adding in a fake click space. So if I were to do this in an actual presentation to my team, I might just talk them through it and explain to them or show them an example of how that animation might work if I don't have the capability to do that.
Yeah, Talon, we need some growing and shrinking navigation elements in XD.
No big ask, no big deal.
It's our ask for you.
So again, let's see that.
And actually, this is a good time to take a break because it's time for our chat and win.
We need like a chat and win song.
We do. I'm excited. Pick it up as we go. Chat and win, chat and win. It is time for chat and win. Was that good? Was that the
That's
song you were
perfect.
looking
That
for?
was exactly it.
So we've got another minute or two before we announce the winner. Let us know where you're dialing in from. I saw a couple different people from all over. There are a lot of participants today. Hi Tima, hi 7up Design Studio, hi Video Val again. Jonathan, big money, no whammies. Nice, everyone saying hi. Are you excited about this notebook? Let us know what you'd use it for. Gracie told us she'd use it for sketches and doodles, so what would you use it for? I use my notebook for to-do lists, so does Megan. Nothing better than crossing off things on your list. More like remix, nice. Awesome, and yeah, Andrea, you're back in time, just in time to hopefully win the chat and win. Oh, you ready to announce the winner? You want to say the name?
Elizabeth Martin.
Elizabeth Martin, congratulations!
Huzzah!
Chat and win, chat and win. It is time for chat and win. Elizabeth Martin, you won the lovely hardcover notebook from Moo. Woo! What are you going to use it for? Let us know. Are you going to use it for sketches? Are you going to use it for lists? Are you going to use it for wireframes? Congratulations.
Congrats. That's exciting.
And if you didn't notice, Megan was working through that too. She never stops working. You are a hard worker, I can tell. A workaholic, maybe?
So we created at least the scroll. We talked about
Nice.
this a bit yesterday, but when you click on a artboard, you can set scrolling to either none or to have, which would just fit it in your window, or you can have vertical scrolling, and you set the height. So it's automatically going to be set to whatever your artboard size is, but if you want to change that, the typical height of this particular screen is 640. So now we have the ability to scroll, and we've set certain things to be fixed when we are scrolling, which is great. So in these secondary categorizations or tertiary, whatever they are, I've created basically a bounding box, which is just a plain white box for us, and that helps me to communicate when I'm talking with developers on what's the area that is the clickable area or the clickable space, and then it also can allow us, as we're prototyping, to sort of emulate that space in the clickable area that we might have, or what that bounding box is in our prototype. So we would tap, get to the next screen. I used to work at an animation studio, actually, oddly enough, and so I always was told the best default is ease in and ease out. So they call it a bell curve. It's if you think of it almost like a roller coaster, the ease in and ease out kind of makes an S. And so as you can imagine, you quickly descend, and then you kind of slow down as you're falling in the way that might work. And so it just creates a very natural,
Smooth movement.
smooth. So if it makes sense to do it another way, then you can look at your animation. That's the nice thing. The really nice thing about this program is just being able to click straight to that and see that transition happen.
So you're getting animation lessons here from Megan too. If you weren't learning enough, you're learning more now.
Huzzah! We might also just make sure that all of our headers have some of the same, able to go back and forth, so we could check out a different product, or we could check out a different section or area.
Bye, Beth. Thanks for joining us. Have fun at your meeting.
So now we want to have the filter pop up. So when we click this, we're going to have it, instead of just a transition straight to that screen, we're going to do an overlay. So we can kind of preview what that might look like here.
Beautiful.
And we could just have it, even have it slide in from the bottom. Let's see how that works. It might, yeah. So kind of, sort of.
Yeah, with the overlay, it's a little bit tricky.
Yep. But you get the idea.
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to see these changes live in XD. It's really nice. And Elizabeth got back to us. She's going to be using the notebook to keep track of all of her wild ideas. She's super psyched. Congratulations again. The team should be reaching out to you to let you know how to receive your gift.
Wild ideas. I like wild ideas.
Wild ideas are the best kind of ideas.
All right, so if we click into, the nice thing, I think this is awesome about Repeat Grid, is it knows in your animation that if I'm selecting this particular box, it doesn't necessarily apply that to all of them right? It just knows that
Just that
I
one.
mean just that one, even though
It is a repeat grid.
it is everything else is repeated. It's pretty amazing. Once a user has added something to the cart, we're again going to have an overlay. And then this is where we get to use the awesome new feature, which should also have a song.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
New
Putting
timing animation song.
Timing animation. So
Timing animation time.
yeah. If I click on, let's see, I did this morning. If I click on this particular, I wonder if it's because it's an overlay. I can't do that. Let's try.
Yeah, let's see if it works out.
So if I were to click on this particular screen, I have to click, to do timing animation, I have to click on the artboard first. And if I click and drag to the next screen, then I get this drop down and it's either a tap, which is what we've traditionally been doing, or I get time. And so I can, again, pick the transition. And I can set what's the time, how long do I want this to sit there before it moves on to the next screen.
And what's the time measured in? Is it milliseconds or is it in
I
seconds?
think just seconds.
Okay, cool.
So if I were to, add something to my invoice, then I would get confirmation and it moves on to having added it to my cart.
That's super nice. So this is a new XD feature, timed animations. Thank you, Talon. And XD team. It takes a team to make these changes, for sure. Jonathan's asking if we rehearsed these presentations beforehand because it feels like it went by super fast. Definitely not. Definitely doesn't feel like we're prepared. We're live. We're live here. You can see Megan working organically. This is literally how she would work in the real world. And if you were to talk to me, this is literally how I would interact with you.
I think it does help that at least for me personally, like I've said before, I had a design system. So I generally will fumble through something and quickly have to decide, should the text be this size versus this size, or is the button this color versus that color? But I think one, that helps, and also XD is obviously a really easy tool to use. So I can quickly create these things and not have to fumble too much with the product itself, which is obviously a great bonus.
Yeah, again, Megan is pretty new to XD and she's flying through this. She just had her file set up correctly, but she's able to knock out these screens based on this wireframe she showed us yesterday in a very short period of time. And so again, I just think XD is super easy to use when it's set up properly and when you have your library available. If you're coming up with a design system while working on designs, it's obviously going to take a longer period of time because it's hard to figure that out.
So we may, we've already added this to our cart. So we have this next screen which shows that the cart is full. But we don't want a user to click to add it again. Maybe they thought it wasn't added. So we could quickly add some different text to show some variation and then create within the app in conversations with our developer a behavior that if this number were to change again, then potentially we would want to change that, or maybe we have this be view cart instead and they could click and see their cart. But give some cues as to where we're going. So we created if a user clicks onto their cart, they come to their cart page. They would have the ability to change any of these things. They could still add them to a favorites list. So I imagine that a user may come in, and at least I do this. I don't know if you guys do with cart experiences. I'll go in if I'm shopping for clothes and I'll add anything that I'm sort of interested in to the cart. And then I vet through it and say, that's too expensive, or I don't like that as much as I thought that I did. But maybe they would want to favorite it. So they say, actually, I think I don't need this particular product to fulfill this contract, but I may want it later, and I don't want to forget that it's out there, so I'm going to click to favorite it. So I don't want to get rid of that particular feature yet from these features of products. You could also obviously delete something if you decided that wasn't what you wanted, but we're going to have a user then click to create an invoice. We always want to give them options to go back where they came from. And what we can do is instead, say somebody had clicked to enter the cart from a different screen than this one, instead of actually connecting it to this particular screen, what I can do is say that I believe I can say that the destination is previous artboard instead of transition specifically. So if wherever they click to get to this cart page, they could go back to any page that they had previously come from if I linked it on multiple places.
Which is super useful. And Paolo's asking about the new features of XD. And so with the newest release, we have 3 core updates. The first of which is spell check, which is super useful for me. The second is what Megan just showed us with the timed animations. And so you can have a screenshot for a period of time before disappearing and moving on to a different screen in the prototype. And the last feature is responsive resize. And what that means basically is you can have a design at a certain size, have this tool enabled in the panel on the right-hand side. So it's just a toggle on the right-hand side. And then you can stretch your design to be a different size and it will responsively adapt your design, which is really cool. And we can show a little bit of that later today too, if you want.
Yeah, I would love to do that even next.
Perfect. Yeah, Megan's gonna be working on some iPad designs, and so maybe that's a good opportunity for us to try out that new feature together and see how well it works with her designs that she's put together. And Steven's asking if there's a way to replace a single symbol instead of all of them at once. So you would have to ungroup that symbol because as a symbol, it is grouped to the rest of the symbols in your project. But if you want to just alter that one symbol, you'll ungroup it from the symbols, from the symbol library and make your change to that single element. And Kevin's saying, so you could have the arrow change green at the end. He probably mentioned that while you're working on some of the problems. I don't know what exactly you mean by that, Kevin, so maybe you can explain what you mean by change the arrow green at the end.
Oh, we forgot these. So another thing that's nice is if I've already selected a particular symbol to have, or an object to have fixed position, when I click to copy and paste it to another artboard, it automatically carries that over. So in the case of something like the Android navigation, I'm always going to have that fixed and it's automatically submitted as such, which is nice.
Man, Megan is just blowing through these screens. How many do we have left now? Are there any left?
I mean, that's our base layer on all of them. So we have our basic visual down, and for the most part, we're not going to change too much, even if we go through and add a little love to things. And I believe now we have, so we have our animation. We're going to want to go through, I typically try to comb through it all. So if a button is clickable on a page, I want to make sure that I have tested it on every single screen. So for instance, I had clicked and exit out of this. It really should actually take us back to the cart page instead of the invoice page, and make sure that we've linked everything correctly and that everything that should be fixed is fixed. So it's great. So I also love, we should show probably a spelling check, right?
Yeah. If there are any errors, it should automatically do the spell check and have it underlined in a way.
Got it. So if I look at safety, if spelled wrong, if I double click into a text area.
Oh yeah, it's popping up there. Got some typos.
But there's another way too, right?
I believe there is a way in the menu. Let me see if I can find that out for us. It looks like under Edit in the XD menu, we just have the option of spelling and grammar.
Turn it on.
Yeah, so we can turn it on or off.
Perfect.
And Kevin was talking about apparently something Kevin did in the last segment, who was on before us, and you should definitely go check out his stream as well. He had an arrow flashing that he copied, I guess, and it had it over multiple screens. So I'm not sure, we weren't watching that, and so we don't know what Kevin was working on, but I'll go check that out and see what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
maybe it's a good time to show everyone the wireframes you started with and how we evolved them into these screens.
Yeah, that would be great. So we had, through some research, knowing our constraints, had doing some comparative analyses of different products and different companies that are doing similar things, had come up with what our feature list was and then put together sketches based on what we thought we might want to go through moving forward. So we took those, and again, because we had a design system somewhat set to the point that somebody had made earlier, we didn't have to spend too much time creating boxes in gray to try and do a more detailed wireframe. We could easily turn those into low fidelity designs. So that went from the product page that we see to, I guess I could even show in parallel, to an actual product listing page here, to be able to filter things, mark that as done, to have a product detail page here, and then our checkout experience of having the cart preview, creating that invoice, picking where it's shipping, how it's getting delivered, all the way to reviewing that cart. So we'll review where it's being sent to, what that cost is, and we will submit the invoice.
Wow. I can't believe you did all that so quickly. That's a lot of screens.
Yeah, we're chugging along. So let's check out there's right now, because we're not a big design team right now, so it's myself, and soon we will have one other starting, which is awesome. But because of that, there are at times just limitations to what we're able to do, real life time constraints. So one thing that Adobe or XD has just started or implemented is the idea of being able to quickly responsive resize this screen. So
Nice.
a lot of times what we do as a team is that I give the developers our mobile screens, and then they see like how does the code automatically translate something, because I don't have the time to drag everything around all the time. So one thing that this would allow me to do is to do that more quickly. So you'll copy your artboard, and the way that I have these structured in my files that I'm working on are to change the name to have potentially tablet beforehand or afterwards. And I'll often either, if it's a big project, maybe have them in a completely different file, but if they are supposed to be somewhat parodied, I often have them next to each other so I can see what one looks like versus the other. If you don't know the typical size of what tabloid should be, or a tablet should be, you could click A for
I'm in the
artboard
way,
and
but
have,
there we go. Sweet.
and have see what those dimensions are. So we could click in here and change this to be 768, maybe. Oh, I did it wrong. That's all right. The width to be 768.
Great.
And now we see where we want to drag things to. So we have the ability to have an auto or a manual resize on this. And you can turn that off or on if you want something to be resized or not. So if I were to click and drag, let's see, I tried doing this earlier. I need to be able to group these things all together. So
For some reason, it's selecting the background instead of the group.
let's try pulling in a different.
Yeah, it's still not grouping them together. So what you want to do is you want to group all your elements together, so when you resize them, it's grabbing all of those elements.
Let's try rebuilding it. Maybe it's in the way that I did something. So we have our background, we have the title, we have the material status bar, those are grouped, we have that background. I actually think you can't have a symbol, so we're gonna ungroup that symbol. Because technically if I stretch a symbol, then it's stretched everywhere. So I believe one of the things is that
You don't want to have any symbols when you're resizing it.
So we're gonna group all of those together, and yeah,
Nice.
So now that works. So
This is a brand new feature.
we can see as I'm moving it that there's some things that are not quite grouped together, or that stretch a little bit differently than maybe how I would want them to. So it allows us, if we click between auto and manual, we have some constraints that we can do here. So let's try. I'm going to try and fix it to the right and say that the width is fixed. I don't want these to stretch, and see what that does for us.
Perfect.
So that's great. And then everything else seems to stay pretty well aligned. This I want to be centered. And I'm not sure. Let's make sure it's centered at least when it's small. And I'm not sure how we might
Would
do
fixing
that,
the width maybe keep it centered for us?
Let's see. Yeah. good
Perfect.
call. Perfect. Yep.
Nice.
So now we want to stretch that. We may make some changes on a tablet device and say that I actually want this image to be taller. So now we're going to move all of these things down.
We can get rid of that Android bar, right?
Yes, I believe on tablets it's still there though,
Oh,
correct? If
right.
it's an Android
I
tablet.
don't use Android tablets all that often, so maybe chat people know too. Is there an Android bar like what we have for the Android phone when you're on tablets?
Just want to make sure these sections are all grouped. Background included. Forgive my poor file structure.
Such a neat file structure.
So we're going to make that larger, and then we're going to come up and we're going to try the second section. So if we just click and drag, we can kind of see where things go, and that's perfect. So obviously
Beautiful.
the name box is a bit longer, so it creates a space here, and we can just easy enough click and change that to be updated.
This is beautiful. It makes it so much easier to do an iPad design just by stretching out the elements.
If we want this to be the full width, or maybe we leave it like that, then we can keep moving through our sections. So we have this must be currently as fixed width, and we don't necessarily want that. We want that line to grow. Let me zoom in for us. So now it'll sort of grow with us. Let's see if we can, actually we want to fix it this way?
To the left. I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of, sort of.
It made it a centered line with the same gap on the right as on the left side.
Yep.
And as a quick reminder, we have about 37 minutes left before the challenge submission deadline for us to review your design, so please get them in. We're looking forward to taking a peek at those later today.
So we will make sure that each of these lines is also aligned right and not a fixed width. We do want to align it on both sides so that you go. Customer reviews, people love this product. All right, so you'll want to make sure that's stuck that way. And our last section. So we may want to have it be a grid, but if we have a grid, we have to turn that off before we can
Apply the repeat grid.
apply the repeat, or it's before we can grow it.
Hi, Logan. Logan's in New York City with us too.
There we go. All right, so we'll want to group all of these things together so that they stay aligned to each other. And then we're also going to make sure that they're fixed left instead of right.
Perfect.
And voila. So we may actually even say that that particular element, we don't need the fixed width, because technically this could grow. Could grow as well.
Man, this is a new feature, but you already are using it like a pro.
Yeah, the best, I literally searched this morning. I said Adobe XD new features. Pulled up the
Latest
XD
features.
updates page. And if we click into our September release, there's a bunch of notes with videos on better tips that you could watch and do probably much better than what I'm doing and displaying right now, but with a quick, literally 2-minute video.
It explains all the different features.
You'll be an expert. So I had a coworker formerly say the best UX design is one where you don't have to say click here, and I think it's evidence of Adobe's great design in this particular product that you can watch a 2-minute video and you're already an expert on this new feature that's come out, which is pretty amazing. So
Awesome.
kudos to team.
Yay, XD team. Making some cool new features for us that are very intuitive. It's always cool to see a design team use their own software that they're designing to create these new features. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. The whole product, I don't think I knew that actually.
Yeah, they use
product
XD while they're
XD.
designing XD, which is really funny.
Inception.
And they've been using XD ever since it's been released and before it's been released internally, which is really cool. The best way to learn how to improve your product is being forced to use it, right?
Absolutely. So again, if I wanted to stretch this particular symbol, by all means, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that I can actually stretch it until I have ungrouped the symbol. So because it's now, when I ungroup a symbol though, we need to make note again that those become their own individual layer. So I'll want to go ahead and actually group the symbol before I stretch it. And voila. So we would have
Beautiful.
A vertical height to be 10 for 24.
And Paolo asks if you know who said good design is the one you don't have to say passier.
It was a friend of mine, Sean Leslie. He tweeted it. It may or may not have been
His quote?
quote before. I think he claimed it, so
Nice.
he believes it was.
This is looking great.
So we'll want to fix that position. Obviously, we would need to get better photos in the case of something real, but now we so easily have
We want to fix the header too,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
We now so easily have a tablet view.
Nice. Would you normally keep the button at that size for tablet? I guess you stretched it to the same size it was on mobile?
Right now it's the same. You would maybe, I would love to test it on an actual device if I had one sitting in front of me, to see how does that feel. Is it big enough? Does it look like it's calling attention to itself? So you may want to make it either larger, or you may want to make it the span of the width, but that's probably pretty big. So you may even, this may be where if you had the time, you might create some customization, right, and change things up. Maybe you have the product listing or the product details on the left, and maybe you want to change and have the actual action items of how many, or actually taking action on the side. So sometimes what I will do is even pull up like a shopping experience and look at, do responsive right then or there if I don't have a tablet in front of me, and see how they're doing it, see what are some of the best practices that other people are doing.
Competitive analysis again.
Yeah, just always on the fly as you're working.
Alex asks about our contrarian beliefs on design. He feels like UI UX design has been absolutely stagnant and has lacked creativity in the past 5 years. Would you like to answer that, Megan?
Yeah, I think, yes, I think there are some applications and some things that merit creativity. I would say right now at the state that Kountable is, and for this particular app, I'm going to keep it pretty simple because I just want to make sure that people know how to get from point A to point B. But I think you see some applications that maybe are around something more artistic, or have the liberty or the freedom to make some of those more artistic changes. I think there are proven interactions that work well. So there are some applications that I've seen, I can't remember what it was, but even the few times I've tried to open up Snapchat, like which way do I actually scroll to get certain
so
information is
confusing.
really confusing. And so as much as you
Feel
can,
old saying that.
yeah, as much as you can follow behaviors that you know your users are going to be able to use your application, and then I would say layer creativity on top of that would be my recommendations for designers. But I don't disagree. I mean, I think we've created libraries that can so easily be copied or templated that sometimes we do in places that we should have a bit more creativity or think about unique or different interactions that are still as intuitive. That's how I would answer, but what would you say?
I completely agree with you. I think a lot of applications that are geared toward teenagers and kids are a bit more creatively open with the way they design and interact with people. Snapchat, when I first installed it, I didn't know how it worked and I was super confused.
Yeah.
But apparently it's very intuitive for people in younger generations. And so, again, I think we as adults use a lot of products that are used for very specific purposes. And so you don't want to confuse the user by making it something unique and something that they're not familiar with. So you'll tend to see a lot of the same patterns, and material design and other design systems that have come out that people are pulling from make it so a lot of people end up using the same framework. But I think it all has a reason. So you can definitely find apps that are more creative. They just aren't going to be the apps that you're going to use day to day.
Yeah. Yep. So we've got a pretty good looking, good standard or base layer of paint to start working off of.
Painted, nice.
Some things that I like to do is once I get to this place, sometimes what I will do is if I'm trying to be more creative with something, I will go and look at other things that inspire me to try to find places that I might be able to be more creative. So even if I'm looking at a basic header, I'm looking at even some of the competitive or comparative analysis that I had done formerly that, you know, Amazon maybe isn't such a creative application, but you have Target who has these fun illustrations back behind. Maybe that's something that I can do, or maybe there's some others that I can find, or even either apps that already exist, or even if I just go on and look at things that aren't relevant, like illustrations or anything that could find some inspiration for what I might be able to do for some of these spaces. And that to me is where I can add some liveliness or some creativity. And that's obviously not in the interaction itself, but in the way that we visually display some of those things. So,
Yeah. I think that's a good description of how you can add some more personality to the application at this point.
so if we're looking at this particular screen, it might be difficult to see the differentiation in the way that we've currently designed it. So one thing we might do is maybe lower the opacity of some of these things. That'll help show what is the main object that's been selected. Another thing we might be able to do is to change this underline color. So maybe we change it to something darker so it stands out, or something brighter. So we have a better idea of which object is selected. I generally test, so I brought in, but we don't need to display on necessarily, a old Android device. It's an old Moto phone that I will often also look at. So if I'm looking at different screen variations, I want to make sure that things are visible. I did purchase an app called Contrast, and so that allows me to see contrast variation between different colors. So there's different standards in the conversation, back to some of the conversations we were having yesterday, for different disabilities or even color blindness, that you would switch, or that you would check your contrast between your colors so that you know that someone can read what you're trying to display. So what this application allows me to do is select what my background color is, and then select what my type color is, and it'll give me the rating of that particular color. So there's AA and there's AAA, which are two different ratings for how much contrast there is between those two, and they're rated based on a different numbering system, or the contrast ratio. So I believe AA is somewhere around 3.5 or 3, and then you have AAA later at like 4. So
Awesome.
something to pay attention to.
That's a really useful app, and I know that I got a sneak peek on a plugin yesterday at Adobe made by the
Nice.
Stark team, where you'll actually be able to select an artboard in XD, run the plugin, and let you know the contrast rating.
Amazing.
Which is really cool.
Yep.
And Kat Noon is working on that, so you should follow her on Twitter if you don't already, but she's posting some updates to her product, which is all about contrast and accessibility, which is really cool.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, so I had, maybe later, as I was trying to work on our design system, so I'm currently using a different software, I think, than probably what I should be displaying here, but had formerly done with our design system, had what I should have, if these colors have the appropriate contrast or not. So making sure that even as we're setting that base layer so that we can quickly run with what we've set as our bumpers, basically, as we're bowling here, that we know that what we are using is safe and is usable for all of our users.
I'm just curious, Megan, since you're new to XD, have you ever looked at the export design specs feature of XD?
I haven't. Teach me.
Do you want to try it out right now?
Please.
We'll do it live. Awesome. So there's a button in the top right. If you click on that, you can publish design specs. And so once you create a spec link, I think you just need to press the button to get it going. You'll be able to access all of your code information of your designs.
Brilliant.
So it's really quick and easy to do this in XD too, which is fantastic.
Even better.
Prototype, design specs, now animations too, overlays, all from XD. And so when we open this link, it'll pull in all your artboard information. So you can open that link. It'll open in a browser. And
Nice.
you can zoom in. And if you were to say click on an element in one of your designs, maybe the newest stuff is at the bottom. I know you have a lot going on in this artboard. Oh, no. Let's find the latest designs we were working on. Maybe they're at the top. Maybe they're at the bottom then. Are these some down there?
Mm-mm.
Well, that's fine. We can click on one of these examples. So if you just zoom into an artboard and click on some elements, you'll see a panel pop up on the right-hand side with a bunch of information about what you need to make this screen a reality.
Nice. That's awesome.
Mincho, this is Adobe XD. You can get it for free now. So go download it, try it out. It's a beautiful piece of design software.
Yeah, this is perfect. And then I believe I actually saw recently that if you have assets, that people can download these straight from...
They can download them straight from
here,
this
right?
link. Yep, exactly. So this is all your developer needs to get started.
Yeah,
Hi,
this is
Thomas. Hi, Terrence. Good to have you here. And Gabrielle is asking what specs are. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about what design specs are and why they're useful?
Yeah, so I mean, when we're designing, we're being very intentional. And so I may have a certain pixel padding between two components intentionally for the way that it's displayed and the way that a user is seeing something. I want it to be literally 16 pixels, which maybe is anal, versus 24. And so what this allows is for a developer to come in and click around in the design, and as they're developing, they could say, okay, I know that this particular container needs to be a certain width and a certain height, and I know the spacing between needs to be a certain amount as well. And so if you were to create some of those things that we're talking about, I think somebody asked yesterday a great question of how much padding do you use around your buttons, and you could always establish some of those things and have it even displayed. You could even, in some of these designs, we could even create a padding space around some of these elements, right? We could create some of those empty boxes. That way they're at least combined with it, so a developer knows I'm always going to have a certain amount of padding around some of these elements, and it puts good constraints on us as designers too, to remember those constraints that we've set in our design and make sure that it works universally. And obviously all of those things help you to build a product at scale. So if I have an app that only has 5 screens, it's really easy for me to go in and change the padding on all of those elements. But once we get into products that have hundreds of screens, this makes it easy.
Yeah. Mincho was asking about the name of the contrast app. Is it just called Contrast?
I believe so. Yeah.
Great.
Contrast.
So you can download
but
that.
eventually, hopefully you will have it in app.
Yep, you'll have a plugin for XD. I believe it's called Spark. So be on the lookout for that. And Gabrielle's asking about how to export assets using design specs. You need to indicate in your layer that you want to be able to have an export an asset be able to be exported. And so if you wanted to say have this fab button be able to be exported, if you click on it and then hover over it in the layer menu, there's a little icon you want to click on. And then when you export your design specs, it should be available for that developer to download.
Nice. So let's try updating.
I know your screens weren't showing up, but let's try updating the link to see if we can get it to work out.
Let's see. Maybe there was something I...
So you should just be able to update link. And then we'll see the updates on that browser page. The link won't change, and so you can just go back to that same link, which is great for when you're referencing it. You can just send one link and it'll always be the right link for your developers, which is a big deal to me. Great, let's try to find those new screens. They're not at the top, they're not at the bottom. Maybe they're in the middle.
You know, it might be because of the way I've structured my file. So let's try doing, so I added them just to the side.
We're gonna move those to the bottom.
Yeah, let's see if this works for us.
Great.
Save
A lot of screens going on in this file. It's great because XD can handle a lot of screens. I don't know if people have seen the demos of how many artboards you can have open in XD and there's no performance lag. It's really impressive.
Use search, it's a great idea. Let's try searching store if we don't see them.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I don't see them.
Well, we don't technically, I have this saved somewhere else, so let's see if even if we just got rid of.
I would say maybe even creating a new XD file and pasting those artboards in there might be the way to go, but let's see if this works out. You can see how big the canvas is in XD. It's huge.
All right, let's try that. Yeah, with everything being vector, very few images, so save so quickly. Files, there we go.
Perfect. So we have that fab labeled as an exportable object. There you go, under assets, if you just have yourself on this artboard, you can see the assets that you can download.
So you can download it even as PNG, PDF, or SVG, which is awesome as well.
Very cool stuff.
And the colors that are used in that screen, which is awesome. So we could tell if technically we wanted to have only a few colors in our design system, where do we have variations, which is really great. We could quickly go back and change the places that it's different than what we would want it to be.
Jeff is saying, wow, so cool. I agree. When I saw this, I was like, wow, XD can do everything. I used to have to use 3 pieces of software for all this stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's also really nice that they have the interactions. So right now, you could communicate what should be actionable and what does it do when you're, where does it take you if you click on that, which is amazing. So, because that sometimes, if you don't have that in a feature like this, then you actually need to create those flows and show those, and that can be cumbersome, taking JPEGs and pasting them over and drawing boxes. So this is amazing to not have to
do all that.
all of that.
Oh my gosh, design specs were the bane of my career for a while. Having to create all those PDFs to send to developers so they understand how to build it.
Yeah.
It was a pain. This makes it so much easier.
It's amazing.
And yeah, as a reminder, we have about 16 minutes left before the challenge submission deadline, so please get those designs in. We can't wait to see them. I think we've had a couple submitted already by Tim, Christiana, and Sergey, so thank you for participating. We'll be looking at those in just a little bit.
The other thing I saw speaking of the new release things, and I don't know if you've played with this much, was web full screen viewing of prototyping. Have you played with that at all?
Full screen viewing of prototyping.
Web prototype full screen viewing.
Yep.
So basically being able to scale things as you're looking at them, which is pretty amazing. So we obviously don't have a web product here, but if that's what you're using XD for, you should go check that video out because it was pretty great to be able to see how those things would
Again, that blog post will give you all the information you need about the new features in XD, and it's great to just be subscribed to Adobe's blog because they have some pretty cool posts.
So let's keep going here. We
Yeah.
might want to, if we had, let's see. Maybe we add in an icon that kind of shows what the medical supplies, or something that's an indication of what that is. Or actually, we probably should have some sort of a line here to show that this is a field that you can drop down.
What icon would you guys use for, what icon would y'all, sorry, I need to get my y'all set into my vernacular. What icon would y'all use to represent medical supplies? I think I would probably do like a needle or maybe a pill. I guess supplies though indicate something bigger than medication.
I would use probably the this thing. What is that called?
It is a snake with wings is what I like to call it. I know there's a proper term for it. We can also search using Adobe Stock. I don't know if you've ever
Is that what
used
that is?
Adobe Stock for searching for reference material, photos. They even have 3D models now for Dimension, which
Amazing.
is super cool.
Got it, iconography.
I've already pulled up some medical stuff for you. Oh, you have a
I had
library,
it.
that's why.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I was like, it knows. It knows you want medical stuff.
And would I search for something specific here?
You can just search for generally. Let's see what, you're looking for inspiration too, right? So I guess medical icon maybe if you want to look for an icon specific reference. Wow, there's a lot of icons.
Nice. That's amazing.
All right, so we got some hearts. We got the ambulance icon, which I also don't really, I guess it's a snake again. Does anyone know what the snake represents in the icons for medical
I can maybe do like a,
visuals?
I don't believe that I have.
We got a stethoscope, a teddy bear. I like the teddy bear.
Med pack.
Yeah, a med pack. All right, so you saved that to your library, right?
Yes.
So if you open up XD now, it should just be in your library.
I don't believe I have, if I don't have credits, am I able to still have it in my library?
I think so. I think it was added. So let's see if it shows up in your library in XD. So if you're looking at your assets panel, it should just be on the bottom of that, I believe. Or let's try looking up at the top. You're looking at all assets. Let's click that drop down and see symbols.
Library's different, I thought. This is one part I'm not well versed in.
Yeah,
There we go.
there it is. And so you can save different libraries to have different assets grouped together. It looks like your wireframes are in here. It looks like you have a couple different things.
Illustrations.
Illustrations. It's the caseus. Voodoo Val says, the snake is the caseus. I would love to know what that means. Gabrielle says it's snake oil because snake oil equals big pharma. Oh man, there's a term I cannot pronounce that John is suggesting to us. Ascapulus? That sounds like a scapula. Symbol of Hermes. Maybe that's what it is. I'll have to look this up later. But did you get some inspiration for what you might want to do for the medical supply icon? Logan also said med pack.
Yep, that was a good one. Should we just create it ourselves, I suppose? Let's, I couldn't quite get it to pull up, so maybe we can talk about how easy it is to design those ourselves in here. So if I were to, forgive me whoever created these icons for copying them from you, but
We're going to grab the stethoscope and recreate it.
I'm going to recreate this.
Caduceus is how you pronounce it. Gotcha.
So again, E-free lips, quick, easy shortcut. I'm gonna make there be no fill.
Cool, then after this, Paulo's asking if we could remind him on how you do exports of the final design or prototype for the client and the developer. We will definitely be covering that. We're just gonna build this icon first.
The other thing is nice is we can easily do a pen tool like we do and are well versed in Illustrator, which is awesome.
So earlier today, Megan created an icon in XD, and we talked about with more complex icons, you can open up Illustrator to create them there, but sometimes it's just really easy to do it in XD because you can do a lot in XD.
Especially if it's a simple, I don't have any shading, it's not really illustrative, so it's quick and easy to add those in here.
We got a link from Jeff about what the medical symbol means. Thank you for the link. I'll have to check that out later.
You can also easily round different edges or curves in app as well, which is awesome.
Apparently the medical symbol of a snake coiled around a rod comes from ancient Greek mythology. Asclepius, I cannot pronounce this name, was the Greek deity associated with healing and medicine. And the rod's formal name is the rod of Asclepius.
Now we know.
Now we know. Thank you for that lesson, Jeff. I feel like I asked this question in a previous stream too, and I should have remembered it, but it's a unique symbol, that's for sure.
How often does that come up in conversation that you've already seen it twice?
I know, right? I guess a lot. Caduceus is now being compared to a Dragon Ball Z attack and a Hadouken attack. So we're back on games. There's some cool video games with some cool fight moves. And again, we only have about 8 minutes left for the challenge submission deadline, so please get those in if you're participating. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's submission, and hopefully I can participate in the future too.
Tell me again what the project was?
Yeah, actually I have it up on my screen, so I can quickly go over that while you're working on the rest of this icon. It's a daily creative challenge hosted by XD, and so they want you to learn the basics of UX and UI design using Adobe XD in 9 challenges. And this is a challenge that's going on from September 18th to 28th. What you need to do is you'll receive a challenge every day. You'll join our daily live show where you'll learn the basics of UX and UI design. And then you'll create a design using Adobe XD, share it on Behance by adding the keyword XD Daily Challenge. And then to complete the challenge, you need to create and share 9 designs by the deadline of September 29th. And so you can join our Slack community to give each other feedback on your designs while you're working on them, and you can download XD for free. And the current challenges that are going on, they started Tuesday, September 18th with the Personal Finance app challenge. And you can get a template for each of these challenges too to start from, which is really handy. And the latest from today was a team page for an agency website, which is what we're going to be reviewing in just a few minutes.
That's awesome.
It is cool. I think a team page for an agency website sounds like a lot of fun too. There's always like an office dog or pet of some sort, so hopefully you've included those.
Really, you're wanting to capture a vibe or a feeling with that, which is fun.
Yeah, culture. And so you can get to that URL at behance.net/dailycreativechallenge. So please participate. We want to see those designs, and I want to participate in the future. I think it's a lot of fun. The Slack community is also really great. If you haven't joined that already, I highly recommend it. And in that time that I talked about the challenge, Megan has already created her icon.
Maybe you can tell me, so this is one I haven't figured out. If I wanted to delete this section of this particular area, how would I do that?
Usually if there's a point in between, I would select it and delete it. But that didn't seem to work in XD. That's how I would do it in Illustrator. The other way you can do this is you can create a shape over it and then use the Pathfinder masking capabilities.
Cool. We'll just leave it there.
I like it.
If we grow this, it scales with us, and we can always change the size of the border. We're gonna take that and bring it over here.
Nice, adding in some flair.
Let's go to our layers. Apple Y. Here's our medical supply, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop that line in there so I can now move this whole grouped area easily. Paste in our icon. We're going to change. What's nice too is this isn't always the case in applications, but if I group together all of these lines, all of these paths, because they all have the same border, I can just quickly change from the folder rather than having to click in and select each individual path. I can click into the folder itself and change all of those right there, which is awesome. Saves time from having to open up a folder, select them all.
Yeah, a lot quicker than selecting each individual element and having to change the stroke. That's looking cute.
That's what we're after, a cute store.
Cute medical supplies.
All right, so maybe we can create a page. If we were to go through and we actually were to favorite one of these pages, what would we do and how would that look to favorite something? So maybe we could even just do it from this page and just have two different features shown in one. So if I were to, actually, I'm gonna move all of these over.
Again, page organization with the labeling, where they're put on the artboard.
We're gonna change this to be favorite. So if I were to, this is like this is the cart where all of those goods are once you've added them to your cart. You also have a folder for all of your favorites once you've favorited them. So if we were to click in and actually add this to be a favorite, we would want to make it filled and turn it red. And we also want to go ahead and fill the outside border as well.
Nice, so now we know that one's a favorite. Heart's always the perfect icon, I feel like, for favoriting. Stars are also used, but I think ratings are more appropriate for stars.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Hi, Conwo. They were talking about Bleach. I don't know too much about Bleach, so I'm not contributing to the conversation, but yep. There's some characters people are a fan of.
Is that a...
It's an anime, I know that much at
Got
least.
it.
Yep.
So maybe we also want to give people confirmation on top of just an icon turning red that something has been added to your favorites. Or maybe we just want to create it for the first time that somebody's done that. So they understand what that behavior is and what that means. So maybe we could say added to favorites.
I think that's a cute little notification. And Voodoo Val says, sorry for nerding out, Sarah. You don't need to apologize. I'm a huge nerd. I wish I could contribute. I just don't know much about Bleach. It wasn't my fault this time, Logan. I promise. He said, oh no, anime talk, I did it again. Great. So you're adding a button to the notification as well?
Yes, maybe we could say just for the first time. So there might be a lot of experiences that we create for the first time somebody goes through something, similar to what you would see in an onboarding experience, versus if they've done this 3 or 4 times, they don't need the same notification every single time. It becomes redundant. But maybe we teach them, if they've clicked to favorite something, we show them that it's been added to their favorites and that they could view where those are at.
Perfect. Makes it quick and easy for the user.
So we could create and quickly click over for our prototype. If we click to favorite something, that we would, maybe we see this the first time. We see it change to this screen. And then maybe we have a quickly timed experience here, where it's timed 1 second, and then when this is done, it would go back to this screen.
Nice. Arrows back and forth with different transitions. Did you get the timing? There we go.
I did. There we go. Okay. So we could preview.
Always test it while you're working, since it's so easy.
See it pop up.
Perfect.
Static favorites, and we would want it to be an overlay instead. Oh, and now it has the back and forth. It's a rave.
It is. I guess we got to go back to the. I don't know. How would you fix that since you have?
We wouldn't do it timed. We would rather, well, yeah, because the timing, I think it's just on. I don't know. Maybe we just need to create a new screen, huh?
And I think it's almost time for that challenge submission deadline. And so, again, please get your submissions in. Last chance. We only have a little bit of time left before we're going to start reviewing those. Are you excited to review these?
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I love watching people's work.
And it's great because a lot of these people are using XD for the first time, which is really fun to see. Again, please participate in the Daily Creative Challenge. You have until the 29th to participate. And maybe do you want to do a quick recap of what we've done here before we jump into it?
Yeah, so we started off yesterday with sketches. We turned those into quick designs. Today we finished those and we added in our prototyping with timed transitions, and then we also took a look at our new responsive resize feature as well, which is incredible. So we took some time to both add a little bit of fidelity to designs and check out some new features.
Great, and tomorrow we'll be continuing this work. What are we going to be doing? Well, we'll talk about tomorrow after we talk about the Creative Challenge, I guess. So let's jump into it. I am super excited. And the first person we have up is Tim, who you might be familiar with. He's pretty active in chat. And so thanks, Tim, for participating. He has a team put together, and I love some of these characters because I recognize them. I think you might too, Megan. We have a couple people here. Gus is on vacation right now, but Gus is one of the resident helpers here, GusBot. He's fantastic, and he's the first person on this list. Then we have Voodoo Val, Tim himself, and Michael De Niro Chase. I love this picture. This is a fantastic picture. I have not seen this before. I don't think he likes it though. He's blurring it out on the screen. It's a fantastic photo. You gotta embrace it. Yep, Tim says he couldn't resist.
Amazing.
So yeah, let's take a look at this. It's a beautiful design. We have Dehance as the title of the team name, I guess.
I did note that.
You can feel free to use my computer to scroll up and down as we're looking at this. Yeah, these are all people that we know. We have Paul Tranny with a pirate patch on.
Amazing.
This is amazing.
Some good searching to find all of these.
Got Pac-Man, Mr. Paco Pac-Man.
This is a nice touch, the blur and the darken up above.
Yeah, I think Tim mostly just did this to have these wonderful photos of everyone. Kathleen is also a sweetheart. She hosts a lot of our streams. Then we have Aragorn and Bingo the cat. I knew there would be a pet. There is always a pet on the team.
That's amazing.
It looks like he's the repeat grid for this one too, right?
Yep. Quick design.
Gosh, I hope we can share this with everyone in chat so you can all enjoy this as well. This is amazing. Thank you, Tim.
Slack channel.
Next up, we have Christiana.
Nice.
This is beautiful. I like the typeface.
Good serif.
Yeah, it looks like you have some company colors too with the red.
Scroll to get to know the team.
Oh, nice. There's
Watch
even a
how
video.
we work. Good. The edges are the same as the cards up above. Good touch.
Yeah, I like the rounded corners on the cards and on the video. It makes it all feel cohesive. I think it's really important to include a team video so people can understand your culture.
Yeah.
It's much more interactive than just including images, though images can be full of character as well. What do you think of the colors here?
It's good. It's a nice soft color. I would imagine it makes it feels like a bit warmer of a place than you might otherwise. Just a warm and welcoming.
Yeah. It looks like we have placeholder text for name and surname for most of these people, except for Andre. Andre Morris has a name. Lucky Andre. I really do like the type used for the titles too. It's very clean. It's very easy to read. And it looks like we have some links, the top and bottom. And I don't know, it's a little hard to read on my screen. I can't zoom in, unfortunately. But yeah, I would maybe make these a little bit larger. It looks like we can click in here too. So let's click in to see this bio. Nice. Co-founder and CTO. That's a beautiful picture. I like the subtlety of the back. Well, actually, we have a back and an X. So maybe we can eliminate
the back
one of those.
cycles through the modals, though. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see, if I click it, it goes back.
Goes back.
And if I click the X, it closes it too. So I might eliminate one of those. I think the X is way more easy to see.
It's easier too without there being a photo. You don't have the variance of if it's a dark photo not being able to see it or if it's a light photo. The color's nice. It's very, very feminine color.
Yeah, I like the soft colors. All right, it looks like that's the only thing we can click on this page. I wish I could watch this video. But yeah, I might make the footer and header text a little bit bigger. It might be my screen size, but it's a little hard to read.
Yep.
I kind of want to see if Tim's page, yeah, we can click into Rufus. Nice. We have an overlay that pops up here. Principal Manager of Creative Cloud, Evangelism. How do you pronounce this word?
Evangelism.
Evangelism.
But I liked the other. It's like Wacom.
It is like Wacom or Wacom. I read it as Evangelion because I'm a nerd. But yes, it's really great. Tim did a great job. I think this is beautiful. Christiana also, you have fantastic work here. I like the colors a lot. Hopefully you've been participating in all of the challenges. I'd like to see the rest of your work, so I'll go look for you and follow you. I like the subtlety of the scroll to get to know. You read this immediately, right? It took me a second to read this. I guess I just have bad vision compared to you.
I mean, compared to the size of the screen, obviously we're looking at it at a smaller fixed size, but.
Great job. Yeah. These are fantastic. Thank you, Tim and Christiana, for participating. These are fantastic.
Good work.
I had a lot of fun reviewing them, and I want to participate with you. So I'll join you in the Slack channel, and hopefully we can talk about it. Yeah. So do you think you'll be participating in the future, Megan?
Yeah,
with these
I must.
challenges? I think it's a good way to practice and get to know the community too.
It's a good trick too to just quickly, if you're quickly iterating and building things, then you learn to do it better when you actually have to on a project, which is a good practice to have.
Yeah, there's also like the daily UI challenges that people used to do, but this is more fun, it feels like, because it's a bit more interactive.
Yeah.
Nice. So Voodoo Val linked out the Slack channel. Definitely join and participate. We're excited to be doing these. I think it's a really good move for the XD team to see how people are using it and to put out templates into the world too.
Yep, absolutely.
So we have some more time. So what would you like to work on next? Will we have some time to continue working on the UI for these?
Yeah, so one thing we might also want to show or display for, especially if we're working with our developer or developers, is to see what it would look like maybe if we opened up one of these sections. So sometimes what I will do is just create multiple features on the same page, or display how these features might work on the same screen. So if we were to open this page up a bit, we could then display what it would look like if we had opened one of these guys up.
Mincho mentioned that you didn't get a review. If you didn't get it in before the deadline, I might not have pulled it up, but there is going to be another review next stream. So if you continue on, they will definitely take a look at your work. So I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to review your work today. I would have liked to have seen it for sure, but next stream, if you continue, they'll definitely review it for you.
And it's the same one for a period of time, right?
Yep, so today that's the challenge. And yeah, if you didn't follow the entry guidelines, there might have been a reason why it didn't come up. So just make sure that you look those over too.
So we may have a pretty long description for something. And
I feel like medical equipment has the longest
much.
description. It's always really technical terminology about all of the components.
Which is good. You want to always know what those limitations are because you want to be able to design to it. So one of the reasons we might do something like this accordion here is so that we don't have to display and have an endless scroll on this particular product. While I might not always recommend we would do, I think sometimes accordions are bad. You're hiding important content that users need to read, but in the case that it may make your page really long, people know the function of these arrows and could quickly figure out how to navigate to the information that they would need to see. So So we actually, and it's good we do stuff like this, right? Because now I know that the description title doesn't really stand out from the rest of this. So I might go back and change and make these our body 2, which is really just a bold version of that. So now I can see that there's differentiation here. Had I created this as a symbol, I would quickly be able to change that everywhere. But we're going to go through and make sure that we've changed that on all of our designs.
Yeah, it seems like we might be having a sound problem, so I apologize in advance. We're fixing it right now. The magical Pac-Man Paco is helping us out with that. Okay, great. I'm glad you can hear us again.
We left. So saying it's good to always make sure that you're adding in variations and things that might be done differently. So when I looked at actually having this copy in here, then I realized that the title here of the description didn't stand out quite as well.
Getting some mic issues sorted out. Apparently the batteries died. That's expected. We've been using these microphones quite a bit. Monir, George is not a guest today. He was only a guest for the interview yesterday. So if you want to see what he said, or if you did already tune into his talk, I heard it was fantastic. I still need to listen to it. But he will not be a guest today. Thank you again, Osama, for pointing out the issue. It's always good to know if something's going on or if you can't hear us right. But we should be back in business now.
I'm back.
Back, nice.
So we went ahead and added in this drop down. So if we were to, I didn't animate it. So if we were to click on this particular section, prototype, go over here, tap, trim, dissolve. Now if I click on the description, and one thing we can do that's not here is if I, let's go back to design, I can also say when, back to prototype, when clicked on, that I want to preserve the scrolling position. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that.
Do.
There we go. So if I click in here, I click to drop down this description. Now I see this description, and I, because of my animations, need to do it a little differently.
There's lots of different interactions going on.
Previously done a timed here, which wouldn't work if I wanted to show multiple features on one page. So we're gonna undo that, and we're gonna add this description pop open to this page instead. So if we click this, we should be able to redrag and change that. And we again are going to preserve the scrolling position. So now if we scroll down, we're reading these, we click on description, we see that pop open, and we can easily click this again to close it back to previous screen.
Perfect. Now we have a tappable description.
Boom. Awesome.
And as Megan mentioned, she has a phone here, so as she's prototyping on the screen on her computer, she can also pull up this phone to test it on the device as well.
I don't think we have a camera to show you guys, but there is an application. There's an XD app. You can easily get that app, and then you can do live previews of your design. So
yeah, do you want to show maybe? We can do a quick view with this camera.
Oh, perfect. Easy. Let's see how I can, yeah. We can do that, and then maybe we can.
So you can see the app right on her phone.
Perfect. So like I said before, I have been testing this off on an old Moto device so that I can see how it might look on different screens. We could see that currently I've accidentally left a gap here between some of these, between the bottom of what I've designated as the screen height and then this element. So some of the stuff's good for making sure we're pixel perfect here. We have the scroll
Nice.
if we were to have scrolled from that previous page. And we could even, so we could get even the full Android experience if I really wanted to, and I won't do this for all of them, but we could click on each of these and have it designate to the previous page. So previous artboard is what this is always going to take us to. And I do think if I were to copy and paste, now that it has that association, it will on all of the places that I've pasted that. So
That's super handy.
I could go back to that list view. I could click on those incubators. We could tap within that good, or we could go back. We didn't link it, so this is good.
Yeah,
Go
testing it out
review.
to know what links are missing.
So we're gonna go into back into the prototyping portion and add that. So now we can click back. We have the filter, so I could see, weird. Why does it, see how that, look at this, the checkbox doesn't show up.
Oh, weird. So we don't have an element showing up. It also looks like the overlay was disappearing for a second.
Oh, you're right.
I wonder why
Let's
that's
see,
happening.
maybe we don't have it set as the right thing. Let's see, tap, overlay, dissolve, or, there we go. There's the overlay, not the check mark. I'm not sure why. But we can click done. If we're full done with that, we can scroll. We've done this which is really great. I love this about XD, being able to set the fab to overlay and stay in place as you're scrolling, so you can really get the feeling of what that would be like. We could click into a product. We see all the product details, how much something is, and estimated shipping. So the thinking here is that a user's probably already been onboarded, added in their address, and if so, we could show an estimated shipping based on their geographical location.
Can we try out the new description?
Yeah,
Sweet.
so we scroll down and we click on, maybe, that description.
So it looks like the hitbox shot was a little bit small.
Yeah, so we might want to change that, especially if we're trying to prototype with individuals who we want to really impress. So one thing we can do, we could actually do something similar. If we remember over here, we created these large hitboxes with the type inside, and this is actually a repeat grid as well. So what we could do is try to emulate something like that here. So instead I'm going to copy this so we know what we need it to say, and we're going to copy description, arrow, and the line underneath, make it a grouping. And I'm actually going to also add a
Background
hit
box.
area.
Nice.
And we can make it can be, you can animate even without colors associated to any of these things. So we're gonna create that. Let's go to the group we just made. We're gonna cut that and come down to our group and paste it in there. And I'm going to go ahead and for file structure, I'm actually just going to delete these. And we're going to create them as a repeat
grid. Adobe Cadabra.
Adobe Cadabra. And we're going to
Perfect.
change this to be 0. Make one more.
Nice. And now they're all consistent.
Now we can, yep, features,
Thanks, Voodoo Val. She says your prototype looks awesome.
specifications, and literature.
I agree. It's always fun. Oop, spell check might be turned on.
Oh, good thing, because I am not a good speller. Perfect.
Adobe
So now that hit area is larger, and what we will need to do as well is create that same area over here.
So we gotta adjust that. Yeah.
Cool. And the awesome thing is too that we can see those changes as we are working on my phone as well. But I still have we're still having a rave over here with this animation on our add favorites. So we're going to detach this one.
Ismail says, nice job. Thank you. And Munir is wondering what our favorite books are. Do you have a favorite UX book by chance?
You know, I've been reading Don Norman's The Design of Everyday Things.
What a good book.
Loving it so much. He's phenomenal. Really, really thoughtful. He's actually in San Diego and helping adjunct teach for
Really?
cognitive science degree.
Cognitive science.
So he's been pretty involved in the design scene there, which is pretty awesome to get to see somebody that you really admire them and their work and their thoughts and their leadership be a part of a community leadership. So
yeah, it's really nice when people give back and help educate the next generation.
yeah. All right, so we updated that. Thank you, prototyping, that we now know we need to make some changes. We can quickly click on our phone from description back and forth more easily than we were able to before, which is great.
Perfect. So the hitbox is way bigger on the mobile device, and that's why she has a phone with her, to be able to test these things and make sure it all works properly.
Exactly why. Tell me, what's one of your favorite UX books?
My favorite UX book is, I recently started reading Designing Together when I had some questions about how to rally a group together as a design team, but then also with other stakeholders in an org. I don't remember the author. I can probably just look it up. But I really like the book because it helps you with conflict management, which I was having problems with at the time. It's by Daniel M. Brown. I really like it so far. I haven't finished it, but I guess it's not my favorite, but it's the one that I'm finding most relevant right now.
That's completely fair.
The Design of Everyday Things, that was really great. And then there's the one it's not rocket science, make it simple or something along those lines. What are your guys' favorite books? What's y'all's favorite books in the chat? I'll eventually get it. Y'all, what's y'all's favorite book? I know there are a lot of UX books out there, and Brandy Hunt is another designer I admire who wrote a book on product design.
Nice.
Let me figure out what the title was. Book. It was called Product Design for the Web, Principles of Designing and Releasing Web Products. I thought it was a really great read as someone who was a leader at such a big company that I respect. And so, yeah, it was really cool to read his book. We might need Pac-Man Paco's help because the chat window went down for a second. I want to see your lovely responses for your favorite books.
So I've gone ahead, just as a feature that we could test out again and see how it works, is creating our favorites page. So now that we've added it to our favorites, instead of having another way to fix our rave problem is instead to be able to click straight to view those favorites. So we can come over to this page and we could see those favorites. And we might also want to have some way of displaying. So right on a favorites page, maybe we show that we're on that particular favorites tab, but we want to still allow people to go to the cart maybe. So maybe what we should also do is once in the cart page, we would also change this icon to show that it's been selected. So maybe you want to turn it blue. We kind of have everything blue, so maybe we want to turn it into a different color that is also within our kit.
Nice. And so we're almost wrapped up with day 2. Do you want to maybe talk about what we accomplished today? Maybe we do a recap of what we did day 1. If you want to go back and watch that, if you didn't catch that, I highly recommend it. It was very educational for me to go through that whole process again. But let's talk about what we did for day 1, what we did today, and what we're going to be doing tomorrow.
Yeah, so day 1 we talked about what Kountable is, what we do, and a bit about the process of how we were going to create the store experience. So we talked about constraints, we did some research, some comparative analysis, as well as job stories and sketches. We also started yesterday on some of our designs, and we created the visual layer of what we were working with. Today we added a little extra love to these designs and finished up on some of those screens and added a few more features and tested out animations. Timed animations is a new feature, and then as also again with our responsive resize feature as well.
Yeah, Megan just casually went over all the new XD features, so if you didn't catch those examples, I highly recommend going back and looking at those. It was really cool to see what these new features are, because I'm new to them as well. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Megan, for going through all that with us today. Tomorrow, did you mention what we're doing tomorrow?
So tomorrow the idea is another piece of inclusivity that we should try and encapsulate in this application is an offline mode. So a lot of our users, as I mentioned formerly, are in Rwanda and Kenya, and so if their internet speeds are low, what do they do if they're in an offline mode, and how do we accommodate that?
Yeah, so that's gonna be really cool. I highly suggest tuning in again tomorrow. We wanna thank you for being here with us today. Yeah, we're looking forward to day 3, and please stick around. Up next, you can catch some work on a really cool application called All Ears, and I'll give you just a little bit of information about that. It's an app that's going to help women real time get advice from trusted female connections and how to deal with tough workplace situations. And so I think that's a really cool topic. And you got some lovely hosts coming up and guests coming up next. So stay tuned, stick around, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.